Back to the Unleashing. I'm your host, Jared Beeler. If you've been going through a trial recently, you're not alone. I just want you to know that. Everybody that I know that's following after God is trying to do the right thing and searching for Him. I'm looking for that blessed hope. They're going through some sort of trial everywhere. That's not a coincidence. And the amount of them that are taking place right now and how I see it so abundantly, it really looks like crunch time. The kind of stuff that happens at the end of a race where you're really hustling towards that finish line. And your coach is yelling at you, keep pushing, keep pushing. And I really feel like that's kind of what we're in right now. And I've been going through some of my own trials as well, some of the hardest stuff that I've dealt with before. And it's been very frustrating and difficult the past few weeks dealing with it. And I thought about talking about it, but it's not really the direction I want to go with this. But it might entail some of it. But, I really want to talk about some different things. Injustice, really, and how that lines it in. It's something that really bothers me is injustice. I totally believe in justice, and you guys know how I feel about taking out bad guys. And once you have done it before, taking out bad guys, to watch a problem stop instantly and fix the whole thing and it's just completely over with, it's such an amazing thing. You wish that you could do it all the time, and a lot of times that you can't. And that frustrates me because, it can be solved fast if you just take the person out. And a lot of times that's not allowed to happen, and I wonder why. And it's something that frustrates me in my life. But past week or so I was dealing with some stuff, and I ended up getting bad enough that I fasted and prayed about it, and I got the answer that I was dealing with. And, a lot of the trials and stuff that we deal with, as scary as the sound might be, it's not coming from bad or anything like that. It's something God puts on us and allows to happen. Look at the story of Job and how he was righteous and he was doing everything he was supposed to, and instead the opposite happened. And it was allowed for a purpose, for God's purpose. And that can be very frustrating at times, wondering what this purpose is. And the real lesson in it is to trust that He knows what He's doing, and it's all going to come about for His purpose and plan, and it's going to refine you into something even more legendary if you pass it and make it through it. And it's something that I felt like I was pushing through something that I was dealing with and trusting in God and what He had planned out when it didn't seem like it was right or fair or anything like that. But I gave it to Him, and I was doing pretty good. And yesterday I got hit again with some other stuff, and it was towards the end of the day, and I looked on Facebook and I saw something and it had to do with Islam and them trying to legalize pedophilia for young children and stuff like that, and how terrible it is. And it just gets so bad. It's like, I'm back on the beach where I've told you guys the story before. I was about to knock those 3 people out, and I'm just like, let's do it. Let's start the tribulation now. Burn them all. And I learned a valuable lesson that there were still some good people there when those kids found my wallet and stuff. And and sometimes I get like that. And I was kind of like that last night, and I prayed about it. And I'm like, God, this is just another thing getting thrown at me from Satan. And I'm like, I got to trust in You. I got to think about all the kids that have been aborted and stuff, that You watched everything and You bring them home to be with You, and the other stuff. You've seen it all. You have it planned out more than we know. Everything is going to be made right. We just don't see the big picture and stuff like that. And a lot of the times, we have no choice. We just have to trust in God and how He's going to do it. But I've seen a lot of different things in my life. And the more that we go towards the end here, the more injustice that it is. Crooked court systems and stuff. I can tell you many times I've seen situations with the affairs, with relationships where they did everything wrong. They're doing everything wrong. They're having the affairs, and while they're still doing this, the court system will give them complete custody of the children and stuff like that. I've seen this multiple times. It's so frustrating to see that when, it's still a law that there was a time when if you had the affair and stuff like that, you had no right to any of that stuff. Instead, they get the majority of the money and the child support and everything like that, and they did everything wrong. And it's like, where's the justice in this? And there isn't any. It's allowed to develop like this as we get closer to the end. And it's terrible, And I dealt with a kid this one time back when I was first working doing tires, and he was bad news, and we got into it, and I got jumped in the shop by everybody. They're trying to hold me back because I was going to beat the hell out of this guy, and he was bad news, and I just feel like if I could have just got my hand around his throat, I could have stopped something in the future. And I look over in the window, and there's a cop standing there. It's a long story, so I'm going to make it short as I can. And he's standing there with his arm crossed, and the evil was allowed to endure. Well, this guy ended up following me around the world, literally. He ended up joining the army after me. He went to Iraq around the same time. He moved back like the same day from Alaska back to Colorado. And the whole time it was just like nagging at the back of my mind like a gnat. Like, this guy's allowed to just keep enduring. He's allowed to keep enduring, and I wasn't allowed to beat him halfway senseless and hopefully change him for the better, right? And it continues on and on and on and on and on. And it's just like, this is impossible and ridiculous. And my friends and people that I told this story to, on occasion, I'd be in the middle of the story telling how this guy has just followed me around everywhere. And then he would walk into those random jobs or whatever that I had. And I'm like, that's the guy right there. And like, you got to be kidding me. This is exactly what you're just talking about. I'm like, I know, it's crazy. And just on and on and on. Like, I just want to take this guy out once and for all. Ultimately, for him to murder his girlfriend, and now he's doing time in prison. And it's like, I feel like I could have just stopped that whole thing, And I had a master I told you guys I trained with when I was younger and stuff like that, and I've never told this story before. Green Beret, Vietnam, really great guy, and busted, found an operation that the judge was running in this town, high up in the Mormon community, I believe, and I went to cops and stuff like that, running one of the biggest meth operations when I was younger in this state. I ended up getting a hold of one of our favorite three-letter agencies, and when they betrayed him and they murdered him and stuff like that, nobody's ever got busted for it, and this judge is doing great. Houses in Europe, African huts and everything like that, and tons and tons of kids and families and stuff like that were infected by this meth operation that went down. Like I said, I've never talked about this before or anything like that, And I can't get too deep into it or anything like that, but I just think to myself, where's the justice? Why is this guy allowed to endure? Why my friend had to pay the price, for what was doing the right, trying to stop this bad operation and stuff. And why does evil endure all the time? It seems like, at least in the time that we're in. And like I say, I've got to taste stopping evil right on the spot. And it's so amazing. I never went to bed feeling bad. I always went to bed feeling better. You stop them, they're instantly gone, and that problem will never, there will be other problems that come up, but there'll never be a problem with that person again. They're instantly done. And it's such a relieving thing to me, and I struggle with it because there's so much evil out there within our government and other things like that. It could be stopped instantly in a second. And it's allowed to endure. And for that time, I've dealt with different issues like, God, why? Why is it allowed to endure? And he has a plan behind the whole thing. And it can be very frustrating for me, for others, for people that see this, when they're doing everything right. They're doing what they're supposed to. They're praying. They're walking with God. And these hardships and these things that they see are allowed to happen. And it really makes you want the rapture even more. Like, God, the only way this is going to get fixed is with you and stuff, And it's definitely something that I've struggled with in my life. And I know that other people see this stuff and the injustice and the evil that takes place and things like that. And it just doesn't seem fair. And I was praying about it last night, and I think about all this stuff all the time and what's going on and stuff like that. And I just, as quickly as I could, I was like, I just went through this lesson, and I'm going to trust in you that you're going to make everything right, and this is all for a purpose. He's pushing it towards it. Even if it's to the point to let the world, which they're going to see in the tribulation, if they didn't want to have anything to do with God, and without God, this is what the world turns into, an absolute mess, where if he allowed it to go, no flesh would be left alive. They would destroy themselves. And, But I was thinking about it, and I just let it go. And this morning, when I was reading the Bible, I got this word in the Bible. I don't know, going through it like I do all the time, but I came to a chapter in Psalms, and it completely discusses this situation that we're talking about. So I thought that I would read it, and if there's anybody out there that might need to hear it or something like that, maybe it'd help you with what you're dealing with, and hopefully give you some encouragement and stuff like that. So I thought that I would do that. just want you to know you're not alone in this situation. It's happening everywhere, and everybody's going through trials. Like I say, it really feels like crunch time. God's pushing for more different things, and I don't know why some people go through tests harder than others. I see some tests, I'm like, that's so easy. I could do it blindfolded. It would be in a second, you know? Why? Well, that is ridiculous. And then others are going through tests that are so severe, and they might both be saved. And I don't know why, but God does, and He has a plan. And I can't help but think that, there are definitely things that I think about, movies cross my mind and stuff like that. Sometimes it's a reference that I get to use because it helps me explain stuff, but sometimes it explains things to me, and it's something that can be brought up in my mind. I know that you'll see something where somebody's going through a trial, another group is as well, and they go through the trial and they're passing all of theirs, but the main character of the movie is going through something that's way harder. It's like, that's not even fair. Or why are they being so hard on this guy? They're really pushing him, only to find out at the end that they saw more potential in that person, and that's where the trials are harder for him. And he had a higher calling, and where they go off to do their jobs or whatever, and this situation might be, and eternity that's to come or whatever, they go off and do theirs, and they're completely fulfilled and happy with it. This person that was pushed has a higher calling and a higher purpose and a higher job set that the master has for him. And it is definitely something that's crossed my mind on why people go through harder trials than others, and some are just just doing it, but they're still saved and things like that. So it's very interesting. It's something to think about for sure. And it reminds me of basic training, going through it, and the drill sergeants are just the worst. They're absolutely the worst. And, it's like, I could never be friends with this guy. He's like absolute piece of crap, and they're pushing, they're yelling and stuff like that. And after basic's over, you run into a couple of them. It's like, oh, man, Beeler, so good to see you. You did a great job. We saw you moving along, and things were going so good. Where are you getting stationed at? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's great. I'm really happy for you, and congratulations, everything like that. Totally different person. And you realize they were that way because they had to be during the testing phase, and they couldn't show any weakness. They couldn't be chummy with you, and even if they wanted to be, they had to be serious while you were going through that trial. But when you passed the trial, they got to see it, and they got to congratulate you, and you find out the reason they were so hard was to push you to make you better into the weapon that you're going to be, and and move you along in the situation. And maybe they weren't so bad after all. And when you see that side of them, you can forgive the whole situation and a lot of the hardships and stuff that I feel that we go through. When we see the big picture on the other side, we're instantly like, okay, it was so worth it. I didn't understand, but I trusted in you, and now it all makes perfect sense. And what's being revealed now, it's gonna blow our minds, and all that'll go away in an instant, and you won't have any anger towards it or anything like that. And that'll be a refreshing thing. But I want to read this real fast. We're gonna go to Psalm 37. I'm gonna read the whole chapter. And if you have your Bible with you and you want to follow along, you're more than welcome to. But I'm just going to read this. I want you guys to think about all the stuff that I'm talking about, because this really hit home, and it's exactly what I need to hear this morning. It's not a coincidence. Never is with God. He knows He has perfect timing and stuff like that. And like I said, it was definitely something I was struggling with last night, and I prayed about it. But hearing this morning and realizing we're not the only ones that have gone through this. We're not the only ones that see injustice or evil endure for its time that it's allowed to. Others have in the past, righteous men that were trying to follow God, and are asking the same question, why? Why, God? This is brutal. It doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem fair. And one of these just happens to be King David. And I'm going to read what he has to say about it in Psalm 37 here. And hopefully it'll give you some comfort. And it really helped me this morning. But here we go. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good, so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and He shall give thee the desires of thy heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord, trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. Okay? We're to trust in the Lord no matter what. And He shall bring forth thy righteousness as the light, and thy judgment as the noonday. Rest in the Lord, and wait patiently for Him. Fret not thyself because of him who prospereth in the way, because of the man who bringeth wicked devices to pass. Cease from anger, and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in the wise to do evil, For evildoers shall be cut off, but those that wait upon the Lord, they shall inherit the earth, all right? Those of us that are righteous, that are walking with the path, all right? We have things to look forward to, incredible things, all right? And we will inherit the earth. That is the important part. And evil will be vanquished, okay? And it's not going to be like this. And children and people that you care about, they'll be allowed and enjoy life, all right? And you won't have to ever worry about that again, especially those that watch back the forces of evil. And you know who I'm talking about if you're out there. And you deal with the hardship, there's going to be a time when we're going to be able to relax in this situation. And we're going to be able to see people prosper and be happy and joy and not have to worry about evil, being around or anything like that. For yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, thou shalt diligently consider the place, it shall not be. But the meek, and I like to change that to prawn, power restrained, like a war horse, all right, shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace, which is what the original word meant before it was changed to meek, okay? It's prawn. And I like to use that more, all right? The wicked plotteth against the just, and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. The Lord shall laugh at him, for he seeth that his day is coming, all right? God knows his day is coming, and he laughs at them. They think that they're going to get us, and for a time they might in different ways, but their time is coming, all right? Know that justice will be served. The wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy and to slay such as be of upright conversation. Their sword shall enter into their own heart, and their bows shall be broken. A little that a righteous man hath is better than the riches of many wicked. All right. For the arms of the wicked shall be broken, but the Lord upholdeth the righteous. The Lord knoweth the days of the upright, and their inheritance shall be forever. They shall not be ashamed in the evil time, and in the days of famine they shall be satisfied. But the wicked shall perish, and the many enemies of the Lord shall be as the fat of lambs. They shall consume into the smoke, shall they consume away. The wicked borroweth and payeth not again, but the righteous showeth mercy and giveth. For such as be blessed of him shall inherit the earth, and they that be cursed of him shall be cut off. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delighteth in his way. Though he fall, he shall not be utterly cast down, for the Lord upholdeth him with his hand. All right, you will stumble, you will fall along the way. We all do. We repent, we get back up. God watches over us. He sees the end path of us that have no intention of ever turning away during the struggle, and he holds us in his hand, and you can count on that. I have been young, and now I am old. Yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. He is ever merciful, and lendeth, and his seed is blessed. Depart from evil, and do good, and dwell forevermore. For the Lord loveth judgment, and forsaketh not his saints. They are preserved forever. But the seed of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous shall inherit the land, and dwell therein forever. The mouth of the righteous speaketh wisdom, and his tongue talketh of judgment. The law of God is in his heart, none of his steps shall slide. The wicked watcheth the righteous, and seeketh to slay him. The Lord will not leave him in his hand, nor condemn him when he is judged. Wait on the Lord, and keep his way, and he shall exalt thee to inherit the land. When the wicked are cut off, thou shalt see it. I have seen the wicked in great power, and spreading himself a green bay tree. Yet he passed away, and lo, he was not. Yea, I sought him, but he cannot be found. All right, this is David watching this over time. As evil looks like it's enduring and doing okay, it's only for a season, and it gets cut off. But here's David walking righteously, and he's still allowed to endure, and time continues on for him. All right? Mark the perfect man, and behold the upright. For the end of that man is peace, but the transgressor shall be destroyed together. The end of the wicked shall be cut off. But the salvation of the righteous is of the Lord. He is their strength in the time of trouble, and the Lord shall help them and deliver them. He shall deliver them from the wicked and save them, because they trust in him. Okay? That this morning was exactly what I needed to hear, and it gave me a wonderful sigh of relief. Because, like I say, this is something that I've struggled with for a long time. My whole purpose in life, since I was the tiniest kid, is to fight bad guys, always. It always has been. And in life, searching for God and drawing closer to him, my greatest trials have been I've been pulled away from that, why evil is allowed to endure. And it's some of the hardest stuff that I have ever had to deal with. And I don't understand, because I know the end goal is exactly what he said the whole time. I made you to be a warrior, and I want nothing less. But for my trials, I'm pulled away from it. That is my trial. And it's unfathomably difficult of giving it up in every single way that I can think of. With no intention of giving it up in the end, because I know that judgment will be served. But as my trial, that I know that later on that the evil will be punished, and it's for a purpose. If I'm allowed to take out more bad guys later, by staying my hand now, then that's the path that I'm on, and that's what keeps me going, is knowing that in the end, when it's time for justice to be served, God's gonna allow it to happen, and it's gonna be righteous, and it's gonna be at the right time. It's gonna be at His time. But for right now, we see this stuff and it approaches, and it can be very difficult. If any of you guys know what I'm talking about, that's definitely one of the most difficult things that I've ever dealt with in my entire life, is to see evil endure. Know that it can be stopped now, but it's allowed to continue on for its day, and it's very tough, and I see it in multiple different ways. And when I read that this morning, it was a real encouragement that it won't last forever. It's only for a time, and evil is only deceiving itself by thinking that it's prospering, because it's not. They only make it for a while, and they get sifted out, and their time will come to an end, and they'll be judged for it. And what they're allowed to do now is only bringing more judgment on them for later, which will last in eternity. And you don't want to have anything to do with it, and don't be envious of them. Even if you're poor now, like David said, what little you have as being righteous is far more worth in the end, in the long run, compared to all the riches that the enemies around you have and things like that. So that's something that I wanted to share. I feel that, because I know that other people are going through trials right now, and they see what's going on in the world and stuff like that, that there's ones out there, they're seeing exactly what I'm talking about. And to see this and hear it, it's definitely an encouragement. And I hope that it helps some people, because it's exactly what I need to hear. It really is. And it's a nice thing. On the other front, I don't know how much time I have on this card, so I think I got a little bit more. I'll talk a minute on the rapture and stuff. Let's see here. On the rapture front, I see everything that's going on, and I might not be talking about it. Like I said, I've been dealing with some stuff of my own, and I don't need to talk every day. I really don't. I've laid out video after video of different topics, and if you need anything, I really try to hit every angle I can, and you can go back and you can watch that stuff, which is the purpose of the whole thing. Not for me to teach and not to create another pastor situation, but hopefully to develop you to read the Bible yourself, to know yourself, and develop that relationship where you walk with God personally. And it doesn't mean you can't go to church or anything like that, but if you're feeling that you want that closer walk, sometimes you have to step out. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If you are closer in your relationship by going to a building than you are by not, by all means, and maybe that's what you should be doing. If you're not, and you've seen the stuff in there, then it's not wrong to get out at the same time, because you can totally have a relationship and walk with God, and that's what I do, and I don't have anything to do with the building. And the church itself is the called out ones, and those words get transferred back so many times between the building and that. And they'll use it for their convenience for whatever they need to, but like I say, the building never had anything to do with it. It was always about the called out ones, and that's what it's referring to, and that's the word church and what it meant. The called out ones, those who choose to follow Christ. But the rapture front, I'm watching this thing, and I joke with my buddy at work. We call this time period during the day, it's the longest time period between break, the dead zone. That's what I feel that this time is now. And I watch it coming, but I also know that God is keeping it just outside of knowing. If we knew too much, we would be able to call it. And that's not allowed. It hasn't been allowed. So we're only allowed to see so much. Could this be the year? I sure hope so, and it sure looks like it to this point. Could it get called off and not be the year where we still are made to watch and anticipate and be looking up, without saying, oh, it's not going to happen this year, which is always a dangerous thing? Yes, it could. So we watch and we wait, but right now it's kind of in the dead zone. I was hoping by the end of July stuff would take off enough where it looked like it was about to go down, but it hasn't. Does that mean it's not going to happen? No, not at all. the whole war front can happen so fast, so quickly, and it could be at a short amount of time. I thought 2 months. It could be less time than that. It really could. And so it's always a possibility. A time frame for the tribulation to start from any sort of front that I know from the amount of time Daniel gives, 2,550 days, which will line up to what God showed me and what I was told that Feast of Trumpets will be for a fulfilling of the second coming, not the rapture. Between this fluctuation of maybe 30 days or so, if the tribulation is going to start, I'm looking sometime around September 20th to maybe early October or something like that, right? I'll do it every year, calculate the times and when it looks like, and I expect pray for the rapture that this will be taking place slightly before it or maybe a lot before it, who knows, but watching and waiting. So September is the time that I'm looking at right now, and I see things lined up. The peace deal, which they pushed back to November, which I thought was dumb. Then they brought back to before the Israeli elections, which is the 17th of September. Now they want to do it just past it. That falls into the time frame. I hear pastors noticing the peace plan, but doing something very, very dangerous and saying that they believe that this is a forerunner for the Daniel 9:27, which we know is the Antichrist peace deal. This is very dangerous. This is assuming that the organization that's using the peace deal to push forward, which, by the way, there's no other way that this is going to have an opportunity to come forward like this, where it's going to be drawn out in a way like this. It's never happened before, only through this administration, which had to have the Obama administration look so bad that I've said before, anybody else that comes along is going to look like a white knight. It's going to be somebody Israel trusts because they didn't trust Obama. Was that part of the plan? Sure looks like it to me. But we'll see. But anyways, I hear a lot of pastors in the mainstream, the once saved, always saved, big money-making operations that are with the Mark Taylors and stuff like that, pushing for 4 more years, thinking that's what's going to save us, buying more time, when it's like, why are you buying time? The only way that we're going to get out of this and we're going to get saved is through God and Him fixing everything up. So what are you buying more time for? For more worldly possessions and stuff like that, because they believe that the excitement is here on the world, and there's so many people that do, and they don't want to hear about heaven or talk about it in churches or anything like that, church buildings, because they believe it's totally boring and such like that, which is the complete opposite of what it's supposed to be, which creates 5 foolish virgins that we're warned to watch out about. So why they think that this is a runner-up to the peace plan, and there's going to be 4 more years because Mark Taylor and others are now saying that Trump's doing this, which has nothing to do with when God comes back. We still have our other signs, like the Malachi prophecy, all the things that have taken place, the end-time earthquakes picking up, God telling so many people that He is very soon to coming back. And what He told me when I was praying about the Trump administration, instantly on the spot, and with a demanding and stern voice, let the dead bury the dead, which made me say, okay, well, I'm not getting on this whole train idea. Do I appreciate when stuff gets done right? Yeah, sure. The whole thing could be a fraud. It could be a deception, which lured the Christian community, because the liberal community that's out there, they're already right where Satan wants them, okay? So what's the point? Why would you want to bring them out? Leave them alone. They're doing what they're doing. They're going straight to hell. That's what he wants. That's what he has. So what's the next way to get it? The half-assers, the Christian once saved, always saved, big organization, Paula White groups and stuff like that. If you get those people that think they're saved to follow along with somebody that looks like they're a Christian leader, to follow along in something that they don't realize is absolutely deadly and will take you to hell, you can get an even bigger group. I believe that's what's been taking place the whole time. That's exactly what's going on. They got the bad guys where they want them, and now they're getting the ones that don't really know. Those that do know, they're very cautious of the whole thing. Hopefully you are cautious of the whole thing. You see this thing approaching. Your heart's with the Lord. You want His return. You're not looking for 4 more years. You can always appreciate when something gets done or abortion laws get pushed back and things like that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But your hope isn't in a man. It never is. It's in the Lord. That's the only way that anything is going to be fixed. And the return of Jesus Christ and being with Him and God setting up the 1,000 years. It's the only way it'll ever be right. All right, and because of the end time that we know that we're in, all right, this is the generation. Look, they're talking about building the temple and stuff like this. Isn't going to be 50 years, 100 years off, okay? From Daniel chapter 8, when it talks about 2,300 days that this temple is allowed to endure, I've looked at this and put it back into different timelines of other temples. No, they always last longer than this. This is just short of 7 years. This is talking about the last period of time when this temple gets built, all right? So it's going to be done, fulfilled, built, within a time period during the tribulation after it gets started for a ways. From what it looks like in Daniel chapter 8, you guys can read it if you want, for 2,300 days. All right, knowing this, then any talk of this temple being built and stuff like that, at the time frame it is where it's getting as close as it is, and there's a peace deal that's going to allow that to be built, then this is the Daniel 9:27, and that should throw people for a loop, because who's bringing it in? The Trump administration. Is he the Antichrist, or is one of his guys? Possibly, we don't know. Or maybe they'll bring it in that's working for somebody in Europe, and then they say, okay, yeah, we're going to guarantee and make sure this happens before war broke out or whatever. It's all a possibility, but it's all working towards an agenda. I've heard before that they had Trump picked years ago. This is including from people that were on the inside. I heard a couple interesting stories about it. So Mark Taylor picking it or anything like that, or him being a prophet, no. He guessed something that was going to happen, and then when he felt the power, which is what usually happens with people, they're instantly corrupt. And then all of a sudden people start coming to him, and him saying, whoa, it's just a guess, I didn't really hear anything. Now he's some sort of prophet. And you guys, you see me, I don't have anything to do with that sort of stuff. I think it's nonsense. Were there prophets back in the Bible? Absolutely. People start claiming to be prophets nowadays and stuff. I definitely shy away from it. I don't have too much to do with it. It's usually nonsense. Can somebody say something that goes along with the Bible? Can people say things that come true, prophesize? Yeah, sure. But are there prophets? I don't really look to them. I look to God all the time, and that's where I get my information and my source from. Sometimes that goes for a period of a long time, and for those periods of time I have decided it's better to take a knee and just wait in this race. And there's an important reason. That reason is, in a race, if you're number 5 running a marathon of sorts, and there's people behind you and you're not in the lead, and those 5 people, and you come to a turn and they go off the bush on the other side's a cliff, all right, they're out of the race. Maybe put back to the beginning by the time they climb up the hill, right? You're in 5th place. And you just took a knee because you weren't sure which direction to go, and you finally realized, oh, it's a sharp right turn right here. It's not over the bush and over the cliff. And then you continue on. Your position is not 5th anymore. Those people just sacrificed themselves by doing something like talking about gap theory, all right, and getting a whole bunch of other people to join them. Now your position is 1st place, all right? So sometimes it is best to take a knee and wait on the Lord. It's always best to wait on the Lord. And see what direction he pulls you. And that means sometimes not talking, and sometimes it just means staying exactly where you are. And right where you are is exactly where you need to be. And then you get to move on after that. So it's definitely something that I take and consider, and definitely when I'm talking about things like that, because this isn't about me. You guys know I don't monetize, I don't go for money. But if I can give some encouragement, talk about the Lord, give any sort of insight and stuff like that, I'm always happy to, and I have been granted different things in life, especially when it comes to knowledge and secrets and stuff like that. God's put me in the right place at the right time, and all the glory always goes to Him, and that's what I try to always push it back to. So, like I say, we don't have a timeline on this rapture on do we know for a guarantee it's going to happen. But we should never look down our guard. This is the time that's going to happen. The fruition of things has come to play. They're talking about building a temple. The wars and the rumors of wars just off the chart. It could snap at any second. Everything's in the place that it needs to be for the West Coast naval invasion of China. They're right in the right places where they are. The whole Taiwan thing, and them saying how they can take out America. The Poseidon missile that can take out the East Coast, with them just putting it into service this year with Russia. And I found out that's the biggest nuke ever created. It's bigger than the Tsar Bomba by like 3 more times. It's only a quarter of that size, and that's the one for the tsunami. It could totally take out Florida and the East Coast, a couple of them if they set them off. Just absolutely massive nukes. Everything's where it needs to be. The alien agenda, how I saw that before the rapture started, how that's all pushing closer and closer to disclosure. We're talking more about space, the moon. This is only to bring out stuff because there's aliens, which aren't really aliens. It's a fake operation. Them disclosing themselves or pretending to be aliens when it's really Nephilim creations, organic bodies, organic suits and stuff created for their spirits to live in until the final judgment and stuff like that, which we've learned from extracurricular stuff like Book of Jasher and things like that. All right. Well, that's all moving closer, and if they do go to the moon and things like that, even within an amount of time, they're going to run into them. They're going to make a contact. There's going to be enough people where they finally say, we don't have a choice, we're getting pushed up against the wall, we're going to have to do disclosure. Or maybe they'll do disclosure themselves, you know, who knows. In the dream, I wasn't exactly expecting the alien ships or anything like that. They just popped out of nowhere, and it was right when the rapture happened. So, like I say, as far as that's come to pass exactly how it is, I expect the same thing. So when I see this stuff taking place, it's just one thing after another. But right now, I'm in the phase of I'm taking a knee. I don't know. And it feels like the dead zone at work. This looks like the year. It's looked like it. I expect this stuff to break out a little bit sooner, but it's not. Can it still happen? You better believe it still can. Am I on looking for 4 more years and thinking because whatever happens with the Trump election or in America, that has something to do with God's return? He can come back at any time. It has nothing to do with it. Nor does it revolve around America. America's mystery Babylon, which will get destroyed. It's an absolute filtered abomination. It's allowed to creep on. Did it used to be great? It sure did when it was built on godly principles and foundations. Have they given that up? Yeah, so they're heading straight into the cesspool, and it has been for a while. Just look at California and some of the other places. It's an absolute nightmare, all right? But it's always heading that direction. Do I still think it's this year? I do. And do I hope it is? Of course. Can it continue on longer? Sure, but things are up against a timetable. Ages of people, prophecies have taken place, different things that are going on, and we know that it's coming very close. And what has he told everybody? It's sooner than you think. It's when you least expect it, you know. He's about to come back. He's at the door. All these different times, including myself when he's told me soon. All right? And this is exactly how it's going with people saying, oh, we believe this is a front or a fulfillment, a future plan for the Daniel 9:27, like a plan before a plan for a 7-year treaty. No, it's not. It looks like it is the plan. And that's the kind of stuff that catches people off guard because they want their best now. Things are going good. They're doing their investments, stuff like that. While others, they're walking close through God, with God, might be going through tribulation, stuff like that. Those that have been walking with God, Matthew 24 and things when Jesus says that we will go through tribulation, knows that you will know that it's a harder life being a Christian. It's not easier. And when we see Christians or people who call themselves Christians in the mega situations, once saved, always saved, prosperity gospel and stuff like that, and they're just doing grand, they're not where they're supposed to be. So are they being blessed? They're hands off. Satan's leaving them alone. Because if he knows that their heart isn't really for God, but it's for what they want in this life right now, he doesn't have to touch them because he's got them right where he wants them, which is in a dangerous spot. Those that are going through trials, God's still refining, creating, pushing harder. And you might be getting trials that are coming directly from God and allowing to happen, as well as just evil stuff. But you will deal with struggles your entire life, and it is harder to be a Christian. It's not easier. It's way harder. We carry way much more weight, and the more you take on, the more weight that you have to endure. So it's not easy, but the day is coming when it's all going to be worth it. And if you've been through this like I have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you know when he's saying that you go through tribulation, but not the tribulation, that's exactly what he's talking about. And we have dealt with it our entire lives, and you will continue to until we get out of here. But it's not the tribulation. For that day and hour and that time, we have no part of it. He's going to pull us out of here just like he promises in Revelation, all right, 3:10, I believe, and in multiple other places, all right, where we're told that it's not for us. It has nothing to do with us. And that's an encouragement. And it's something we long for because as we see the injustice and the evil allowed to endure and more Illuminati judges and things like that taking place where they're allowed to do whatever filth they can and the bad guy always gets it in. They look at a family situation and the one who's doing the right thing, they punish, and the one who's doing all the bad stuff, all the cheating, all the stealing, stuff like that, to give all the funds and make that person pay them. It's exactly like it was at Sodom and Gomorrah. It's not an accident. It's a satanic plan that they've had the whole time to completely flip America upside down, destroy it from within, and usher in the one world order, which is what's going to happen, which is going to fall into the new world order that takes place during the tribulation with the Antichrist ruling and things like that. So everything's going right there. And when you see this evil, in a way, you can look at this as a total fulfillment of prophecy, and you see how close it is because it's about ready to happen. It's getting pushed to the limit of where we're having a clash. There's a conflict that's coming about. And lines are being drawn, and they have been the whole time. Who's with God, who's doing the right thing, who's standing with Him, who's going to pull out, who's going to leave behind, who needs to still learn a lesson by staying behind, once saved, always saved, doing what you want, and not living for God when we're called to be separate from that, and not go back to it, and to not go back to sin, but to be pulled out of it. Yes, you will sin, but just as David said, we stumble, we fall, we get picked back up, brush ourselves off, and we continue on this journey, constantly being refined and living for God righteously. We're going to get pulled out of here. and the time approaches, and it's very close, and it looks like it's this year, and that's very exciting. But time will tell. And like I say, we can only see so much. I'm not going to be allowed to see it before everybody else, at least I don't think, and know that, hey, look, the rapture is definitely a guarantee. So all we can do is look at the signs, and only so many will be given. And God knows exactly what I would do with that. If I see this stuff, I'm going to be like, hey, the rapture. So it's probably not, because no man's allowed to know exactly. God owns it. He owns the whole thing. And that's going to be in His time. It's going to be perfect, because all we can do is trust in Him. And, that's all I can say on that. But it is coming, and it still looks like it's this year, and that's awesome. But don't be discouraged, because if it isn't, it's still very, very close to happening. It is going to happen in our lifetime. It's not going to be years down the road. At the process that evil's going and enduring and moving faster, if it were to continue on longer for more years, the whole earth would be destroyed. We're destroying ourselves. It's pushing into the tribulation, into that timeline. It's happening. It's not getting better. It's getting far worse. And like I say, the Epstein thing and all that, I've seen it all, weren't the same people, Mark Taylor and all them, saying that all those elites and stuff are going to be judged. No, the whole thing just got wiped clean with Epstein being either removed, killed, or whatever else happened. They covered all their tracks, and evil's still allowed to endure. So much for that. And in the Bible, if prophecy from somebody who was a prophet supposedly got anything wrong, they were to stop listening to him immediately. And that's just the minor amount. Then they got stoned. But these guys can say something, maybe guess something right, say something wrong multiple times, and people follow. It's like, what are you doing following a man in the first place? Follow God, and don't worry about that stuff. And I see it taking place. I saw Mark Taylor on Facebook or whatever, and he's pushing for that 2020 thing, and now he's coming out with his new stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, people are getting back on board with this stuff. And it's like, no, that's not how it is. Keep your eyes on God. And watch for Him, because He's going to call. He's going to rip open the sky, and He's going to grab those that are watching, the 5 wise virgins. They're living for Him, have their oil full, and continuing on. And He's going to grab them out of here. And I'm telling you, I got to experience it in that vision. It's the most amazing thing. I'm not worthy that I got to experience that. It was so incredible. It's the most amazing thing I've ever experienced, and my eyes were closed. And I've never got to experience it, so I long for that day to make it a reality. And I only got to go up and experience that for the 10 or 15 seconds. It was amazing. I can't wait for that to happen again. But reality, and then to see what happens after, because I've not been granted the ability to go to heaven or anything like that, like others have, and I think that's so cool. But it's always for that purpose. God uses everything like that to tell somebody so that they can lead with a message and stuff like that. Mine was just for my purpose, and maybe that's the encouragement I need when I get down and stuff like that, for the message that He had intended for me. But He has plans for all of us, and when we follow Him, that's the direction that we go. We follow where He leads us, and sometimes that might be right into the pits. But if that's what He has for us, and we try to fulfill our mission that He has, and He has a perfect plan in the whole thing, and that's all we can do is trust in Him and know that justice will be served. All right. So if anybody's dealing with that, I hope this is some encouragement, because time is closing in on our enemy, and it's going to be sifted. Evil will be destroyed, and God's going to reign, and there's going to be peace and harmony, and things are going to be good, and you're going to be able to relax and enjoy yourself, and then you're going to know more freedom than you even knew was possible. The freedom that America's had over the years is going to be like a joke compared to the freedoms you have as a child of God, inheriting everything. You're just going to be blown away. Every single day is going to be the most amazing day ever, forever, and that's awesome. Hang in there. Everybody's going through a trial right now, health issues and stuff like that. Just keep hanging in there, all right? And know that God loves you, and keep walking with Him, and don't let it push you away. Let it draw you closer, and know that it's for His perfect plan, and just tell Him that you trust Him, and keep hanging in there, because time is short, and we're about to get out of here. I really hope this message helps a bunch of people, and keep looking up for our redemption draweth nigh. God bless. I'll catch you next time on Unleashing. Bye.